The web is an open, universal medium like paper. The web itself doesn't constrain what information you put on it. You've got to expect all kinds of information. There's some indecent material out there. There is advertising material out there. There's material from hate groups, which you wouldn't want anybody to read. There is information you really sympathize with, and there's some beautiful stuff out there. So the commercialization of it, its use in advertising, for example, its use for trade, is all part of the world, and it's very important that a universal medium should accept all types of information.
The whole concept of linked nonlinear documents makes preservation very tricky, because where do you draw the boundary around a document? If my document references 16 other documents by having links to them, then what does it mean to preserve my document? Do we also have to preserve all of those other 16 documents and transitively all of the documents that they reference and point to? And you can think of the web as one huge interlinked connection of documents. You could think of it as a single document if you wanted to. It's not quite where we are at the moment, but it's a reasonable model. And if you do that, then what does it mean to preserve that? How do you even describe what you've got? And it's dynamic, it's changing every moment. People are adding things to it, modifying things to it. So we just don't have the understanding yet, the conceptual understanding of what we're doing and where it's going, that would enable us to make sensible decisions or choices about preservation.
Information highway, electronic publishing, I think will sound in 20 years like horseless carriage sounds to us now, because they're all analogies to something that's an old technology, to highways, to libraries. And I think this technology really changes everything. It changes the way we communicate. And we basically need a new language to describe these new relationships and the new styles of seeing and teaching and learning. If you begin from thinking about it as a communications medium, then the social policies have to concern free speech, have to concern education, have to concern public access. So it's the narrow focus on transportation of commodities on an information highway that I think limits our field way too much.
One of my favorite examples of longevity is a wonderful line from one of the Shakespeare sonnets. And in fact, this is a photograph from the Folger Library of their 1609 quarto edition of the sonnets. That was when the sonnets were first published, so nearly 400 years ago. And the 18th sonnet, which is one of the most famous, which begins, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day," ends with the couplet, "So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee." And what I love about that is that the "this" in the couplet is the sonnet itself. It's a poem that's referring to itself as a work of literature. And the inference is that he knew, or guessed, that this thing that he was writing under his hand as the ink came out would last forever. Well, it's only been 400 years, but I would say there's a fair chance that if anything lasts, the Shakespearean sonnets will. We need to do something equivalent for digital information. We have, at the moment, a very poor chance that a current Shakespeare writing deathless prose, deathless poetry at the moment will see their lines last for anything like the next 400 years.
And this gives life to thee. It is the human record, caught at this point in time between the world of print and the new and demanding world of electrons and photons, that gives civilization its life. Somehow the substance of that record must continue to be preserved.